us. They envy us because we're mortal. Because any moment might be our last. Everything's more beautiful because we're doomed.
In history, there can only ever be one. The moniker of the strongest is something passed down from titan to titan, something only a very talented and blessed individual is capable of achieving. Hard work and determination means nothing if the basis of how you build your strength is shaky to begin with. Luckily for Satoru Gojo, his infinite potential is built upon a ground far stronger than that of a stolen child's corpse. Having completely annihilated Agito, who he didn't see as fit to belong in his presence, it is said that with Gojo having also landed a second Black Flash, his intensity increased, and as he felt a rush of exhilaration flow through him, he activated his reverse curse technique, allowing him to comfortably heal that previously failed arm. On the other hand, and for the first time in 1000 years, the King of Curses, Ryomen Sukuna, finally begins to feel the weight of battle. Reigniting the fight, Gojo stuns everyone as he lands his third Black Flash, but this time on Maharaga. Darting back, he then takes Sukuna by surprise as he appears directly in front of him. Sukuna tries to throw a fat right hook, but Gojo comfortably dodges it and grabs the King of Curses' hand before adjusting his polarity and throwing him into Mummy Maharaga. Not giving them a moment to relax as well, Gojo follows up with his fourth Black Flash. Luckily for Sukuna, Maharaga was able to block the strike with the Sword of Extermination. Still, the impact from Gojo's punch smashed the wall behind them and sent them sliding back through one floor of an office building. Floating outside that said office building, Gojo raises his hand and begins chanting in preparation for his next technique. Phase, preparation, pillars of light. In Jujutsu, a spark is the curse energy that swells up inside a sorcerer just before they go and activate a technique. In the moments before a domain activation, sure hit technique, and other powerful abilities, there will be, without exception, a spark. Even the great Gojo with his immense curse energy isn't an exception to this rule. This fact doesn't change, instead it's all the more obvious for his hollow technique, purple. Inside of the building, and based on the incantations that were said by Gojo, along with the scale of curse energy put into those said incantations, Sukuna believes that the spark currently before his eyes was that of the curse technique reversal, red. So, what Sukuna's plans are in preparation for the attack is to have Maharaga tank it, then on top of that adapt to red to put Gojo in his place. However, Sukuna's judgment on this next attack was by no means incorrect. Activating Curse Technique Reversal, red, Gojo blasts his ability straight upwards into the sky, completely confusing Sukuna as he obviously thought he was going to shoot it at him. After a second thought though, he quickly comes to realise the magnitude of what's happening and calls forth Maharaga. Blasting up through the levels of the building, Maharaga shatters each window as the speed of his movement increases in an attempt to catch Gojo's red. Moments after red was fired, Sukuna figured that by merging the lapse of blue and the reversal of red, hollow technique purple is formed, producing an imaginary mass that rushes forth. Shooting itself outside of the building now, it's shown that just ahead of Maharaga, the red Gojo had previously fired was headed directly at the perpetuated technique that had crushed Agito earlier, blue. In a general sense, the technique, red, falls into a standstill before it will explode. Sukuna was able to figure this out because of the ability Gojo used on him last time, when he gave him the fat back shots. Maharaga was sent up by him to prevent the abilities from merging. Firstly, what Sukuna had planned for the Shikigami to do was to attack blue and completely erase it as it had already adapted to blue beforehand. All that ran through the beast's mind as it tried to do this was a yearning to fulfill orders. Travelling up at a rapid speed though, and using the attractive force of his own blue, Satoru Gojo flung himself between his blue and Maharaga. Blue chooses its targets without bias, and because its attraction isn't affecting the adapted Maharaga, as a side effect, it causes his adaptation to actually backfire. Lunging forth, Gojo lands a fat uppercut on the Shikigami that leaves Sukuna with no one to defend him as he prepares his own last-ditch attack. Pulling up his hand to perform another use of his piercing blood-like ability, Sukuna plans to disrupt the merging by causing the explosion of red first before it can merge. Shooting off his ability, Gojo quickly follows up and punches the King of Curses in his side. Looking up and seeing that his ability was able to shoot forth and that it was about to clash with Gojo's, Sukuna confidently remarked that he was too slow. Unfazed by this all, Gojo quickly rattles off the incarnation for blue, phase, twilight, eyes of Pranja in such a short period of time that it utterly stuns Sukuna. Glancing at his attack again, he watches as it pierces into Gojo's steadily merging technique, not affecting it in the slightest. The reason that it didn't actually disrupt red right there is because Gojo, in those last milliseconds before the technique was about to hit, reactivated and restored his output following the incarnations that he just previously said. which is actually insane when you think about it. Like, I don't even know how man did that. Anyway, floating there with both foes on each side of him, Gojo starts his incantations for the legendary Hollow technique, Purple. 9 ropes, polarized light, Crow and Shomyo, the gap between within and without. Witnessing the battle of the century back at the TV room, Yuta apologizes to Kusakabe for what he had said previously. As to him, it's pretty obvious that if a burden such as himself entered the battle, then Gojo wouldn't have been able to do this. With both colours fully combining and the purple light of the gods themselves getting ever brighter, Gojo looks upon both of his terrified opponents' faces and finishes the incantation. Purple. Instantly, following the implosion of the two techniques, an imaginary force of unstoppable curse energy exploded outwards, destroying Maharaga along with anything in its path and completely burying all of Shinjuku under a carpeted layer of rebar and rubble. Barefoot and barely able to stand now, Sukuna, having survived the blast, holds himself up against a broken wall. In front of him, Gojo states that, well, this was an unlimited purple, not bound by any specific target, so it even damaged him. However, as we can see, it's obvious that there's a difference in the level of their damage. Gojo assumes that it's just because his curse energy pool is just that large. So in the end, all's well that ends well in his eyes. He even jokes that he totally crushed Sukuna in the improvisation department with that use of remote purple, and that is the first time he's ever had to actually blow himself up and then repair himself, which again is mental. Like, how do you even do that? I know, like, you can already see, but as long as you keep that part of the brain there. So I'm imagining right now Gojo blew his entire body up apart from that one section of the brain and then completely re-healed his body. I don't know, man, that's actually insane when you think about it. If you're confused like I kind of am right here and how in the world Gojo was able to start using curse energy again, well, it's like Kusakabe says here, and how we all learned earlier on back in the series when our boy Yuji landed 4 of them. Gojo was able to regain his reverse curse technique because of his use of black flashes. So, you know, like, miracles happen when people start landing these black flashes pretty much, you know, they reach their true potential and stuff. So now, with Sukuna, who has slowed healing, no Maharaga, and an inability to do any more damage without domain amplification, it means that for sure, 100% Gojo wins the battle of the strongest sorcerer in the history of the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that this fight actually comes to an end, and that's what I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize here. I have no idea what's going to happen next, but I know it's not ending here. We all know that Sukuna has a box with a bunch of tricks up his sleeve, and not a single sorcerer, like, apart from obviously Sukuna himself, maybe even Kenjaku, knows that he has this black box technique. Speaking of the black box open, Gojo's incantation when he says the gap between front and back, or like within and without, corrects me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that is a reference to the cursed dimension itself. I might be completely wrong, but like when I first read through here and just thinking on like all of the times he's used purple now and like used incantations, it reminded me of Sukuna's black box open and Gege's one shot called Number 9, and how it kind of explores this like world of like Shikagamis and this dark world. It's a really interesting one shot, so I do recommend reading it if you guys haven't, because I just have a feeling it's going to play some part in the story and how we understand Shikagamis in general. Either way, if you guys have enjoyed the video, then do leave a like, as it really helps out with pushing my video to a bunch of new amazing people, and subscribe if you are new around here to keep getting these videos every single week that we have this Gojo vs Sukuna battle. Obviously, you know, check out my Chainsaw Man video on the latest Dating Denji arc if you guys missed that, but for now, it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I'll see you all in a bit. Bye.